already, you are a horrible, horrible monster. You really need to watch the video at 2 p.m. and I hope to God you have the audacity to show up at my house or sue me for slander or accuse me of raping you, which is your MO. Whatever you want to do, bring it on, you stupid fucking worthless bitch. By the way, everybody knows about this already. I've already talked in advance with everybody from Sam Young to John DeLynn to friggin' Lindsay Hanson Park, Jonathan Streeter. I've talked to so many people over the last week and told them Mckenna Denson cannot be trusted. Trust me, do not believe a word she says. And every single one of them, after I presented the evidence to them, realized, oh my God, I suspected it for a while. You know what your mistake was, Mckenna? Here's the big mistake you made. Making the absolutely ridiculous accusations that somebody came into your house, laced your orange juice with Drano, then 3 days later they torched your car, then 7 days later there was a conspiracy because 2 men were there and they assaulted you. You're telling me that 15 years after you were assaulted at gunpoint, where 2 men, you told the police 2 men, black men, it's always black men, you racist bitch, 2 men showed up. One of them had a Glock. He smacked you upside the head, knocking you unconscious and put you in your trunk. 15 years later, last night when we talked, you couldn't even remember how many men there were. Was there 1 man? Was it 2 men? You can't keep your story straight. And so then you throw out this, I've got dissociative identity disorder. Yeah, you're mentally ill, all right? Get some fucking help.
A phone call from Mr. Mike Norton berating, using foul language, and aggressively, verbally attacking Mckenna Denson still gives me the chills. This is how I was treated by my good Mormon first husband. Something for all these good Mormon girls to look forward to. This is how our priesthood is being taught how to treat a woman. But let's get back to the topic. Why I, as an attorney, believe Mckenna Denson's story and believe, based on evidence, that she has been set up. In other words, I smell a rat. Just by way of background, generally speaking, Mckenna Denson was sexually abused by her stepfather from the time she was young to the point where she left the home. She entered the mission field, going through the missionary training center, where she was spotted, groomed, and assaulted sexually by the MTC Mormon president in a basement sex dungeon on the Mormon Church property, which is the Mormon Training Center in Provo, Utah. Here is the timeline. Utah judge orders church to turn over some names of past sister missionaries who may have also been sexually assaulted by MTC President Bishop during or after or before the time of Miss Mckenna's assault. The judge gave the Mormon Church 21 days to turn over such material. This article is May 10th. Let's just use May 10th as our anchor date for when things just started to go south for Miss Denson. So on the 10th, there was an order that the Mormon Church turn over some very important documents that may make or break Miss Mckenna's case. So then what do we have? We have her close friend and confidant for over a year suddenly comes out in a vitriolic series of YouTube posts stating that Mckenna Denson is a grifter, that her latest assault and poisoning allegations were completely ridiculous, that nobody can trust her. And then he also reveals, this is Mr. Noah himself, Mike King, that he has been working with the Mormon Church defense team in setting Miss Mckenna up. All right? In setting Miss Mckenna up for this very public and very outrageous downfall of her reputation, even though most of this information was well known to Mr. King and everyone in this ex-Mormon community that supported Miss Denson. This information had been known over a year, but suddenly it's now become very explosive. And the only latest allegation is that perhaps she took a bit of money from unsuspecting people that thought she might have cancer. Oh, perish the thought. When Mr. King has a felony record for assault and now has revealed himself to be an absolute fraud in befriending poor victims such as Miss Mckenna of lifetime sexual exploitation by predators such as what Mr. King is working for, the church legal team. So anyway, so that happens on about the 25th. That's going to be 15 days after the court ordered that the church turn over the information critical to Miss Mckenna's case. Okay, that was on the 10th. Well, on the 30th, mind you, on the 30th, 20 days, just 1 day prior to the church being required to turn over the information, and only 5 days after Mr. King supposedly posted these videos. 5 days, they already had a motion before the court, and they wanted to withdraw 1 day before the Mormon Church was going to turn over these documents pursuant to a court order. And what does Magistrate Heed do? Does he say, gentlemen, there's only 1 more day for the church to turn over these very critical documents. Why don't you wait a day or two? We'll revisit this motion because your case might be won or lost by the disclosure of these most important documents. No, the magistrate judge allows them to withdraw at this most inconvenient, prejudicial moment for Miss Mckenna Denson's case. And then does he say, well, Miss Denson, you'll at least get the documents tomorrow, and then you will be in a better position to obtain new counsel? No, what the judge does is he orders a stay on the entire case. Whew, meaning the church was rescued from this most critical moment when they would be forced to turn over maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 100 names of similar sister missionaries that may have been assaulted by this MTC president bishop, who the church well knew was doing this, and yet rewarded him by promoting him to different church positions and then protecting him from all legal consequences of sexual assault against unsuspecting young missionary women. I do not trust these 2 attorneys because, yes, they've been helping victims, but that has been the plan. This is called a limited hangout. Yes, they will take, instead of having an avalanche of willy-nilly lawyers coming out from the woodwork taking on these cases, the church has carefully crafted these 2 attorneys to work as if they're helping victims. And they do help a victim here and there. They do get some money damages, but they always sign confidentiality agreements. Nothing really substantial ever happens to the church. $1 billion company that can afford to dribble out some money to pay off some of these Boy Scout claims, some of these, and these lawyers are basically gatekeepers, calming the waters a little bit and acting as if something's actually happening to protect these victims. That is simply my opinion, but certainly based on this timeline, I believe these 2 attorneys could be subject to a legal malpractice case, because rather than waiting a few days more to see whether the Mormon Church was going to hand over these very critical documents, 1 day before they withdraw completely inappropriately, a point in time that has now sabotaged and maybe permanently damaged her legitimate claim against the Mormon Church and Mr. Bishop. All right? In understanding Mckenna, but these CIA MK Ultra child victims of severe and sustained child abuse, the issue is much more complicated than the public is aware. These children are identified, a dossier is kept on them, and they are followed and tracked all the way through their life. Articles state that the CIA could spend up to $1 million, $2 million in just the long-term studying of these MK Ultra mind control victims. So if Mckenna is one of these victims, which I believe she is because her father was in Reno and a well-known organized crime area. These pedophile rings run in networks, and he was probably a part of this network in the Reno area. And then I find it a little bit too coincidental that she later joins the Mormon Church. I believe that Mckenna has been documented her entire life and has been followed. And I will read a blog post in which states they will assign as many as up to 5 people to keep these MK Ultra victims within their control. And so these series of criminal incidences of Miss Mckenna throughout her lifetime is not very surprising. Further, if she is surrounded by up to 5 people following and tracking her and implementing dirty tricks, well, it certainly is reasonable, especially the one in which she believes that she was raped by 2 black men and is running down the street naked, runs up to someone's porch, and then can't remember who it was or even identify their faces. Now, if this was a real fraudulent incident, I think she would be able to identify someone to sue or some friend she was trying to get back at, but she didn't. She looked like she was actually an MK Ultra victim, being dazed and confused. The other portion of this scenario, which people have criticized her for, is that she always seems to identify black men as her perpetrators. Well, this is a well-known MK Ultra technique. They will drug children, rape them severely, and then plant a screen. It's called a memory screen, in which they will talk to the children and hypnotize them into believing that the trauma they just sustained was done by the big bad black men. This was during the 60s, 70s, 80s, where people are very racially prejudicial. And of course, the CIA would want to hide their own scientists, their own white scientists, from engaging in this horrible practice. So they would plant a memory screen of black men doing and engaging in these assaults. So that also is reasonable and can be explained if indeed Miss Mckenna Denson is one of these MK Ultra mind-controlled children, which again, I believe she was. Denson's very troubling criminal history. I think this article found on a blog is very helpful, and the blog is The Dirtiest Secret Behind Child Abuse. And it states, it appears that human trafficking is the term many are relating to lately. Human trafficking is another name for pimping kids out over and over again. It can mean the use of children in pornography, which is then trafficked via the internet and other less technological ways. If the child's world begins as birth into the hands of the predator father, or part of the greater underworld where births never reach the world of official records, dissociation is induced by the tried and true methods by the time the child reaches 6 and sometimes up to the age of 9. And that certainly is Mckenna. She was abused from a very young age, and being from Reno is reasonable to believe that her father was involved in some kind of organized crime and probably involved in these pedophile groups. They associate with each other and they keep each other's secrets and they network with each other globally. These are the children who become adult prostitutes, porn makers, recruiters for other victims, while still being constant prey to sexual abuse by their predators/handlers. When the adult's mind begins to erode the walls of amnesia, those who are able to go into treatment. The opposite of the disassociation is awareness. I know from my personal history and the history of at least 2 other survivors of this world that as many as 5 or more perps may constantly be impeding the route to therapy, and the client leaves therapy knowing the same people are going to be following, harassing, threatening, and reminding her of the code of silence. Such harassment can happen at any time, and the awareness in healing can quickly become paranoia, as planned by the perps. Well, this goes right into the revelation in the book I previously pointed to, which is this organized stalking by high-tech equipment, and once used to be confined or limited to CIA surveillance, has now been passed out to private eye companies, to well-known organized crime syndicates. And so we have all these technological instruments being used by criminals you wouldn't even trust to even answer the door. Okay, so this is just an explosion of criminality that now has been passed into the hands of the criminals. I mean, willful dissemination of these high-tech surveillance techniques have been given to the criminal element to enhance the torment that these criminal syndicates are inflicting on supposedly the good, well-meaning citizen that doesn't knowingly get involved in these actual criminal enterprises. Anyway, the article continues. My therapist once said it seemed like a lot of resources for one single survivor. That is true, but they have the funds of $1 billion industry over the dissociative's lifetime of the victim, typically 30 to 50 years. Millions of dollars has been likely spent training and developing this particular asset to perform deeds on command. It is cheaper to frighten someone back into submission than to show them how to heal. This harassment is terrifying, but rarely leads to prosecutable harm. They know exactly where to draw the line and exactly how to do it, so the survivor will never be believed if they try to report it. And this, again, is very relevant to Mckenna Denson's recent spate of criminal activity inflicted on her, to poisoning her orange juice with Drano, torching her car, and then an actual assault. Very consistent with this harassment, organized harassment, to the point of such ludicrous circumstances that most people will not believe the victim. And this is why I believe Mckenna Denson is being very truthful and is expressing the reality of what's going on. And all these people that were circling around her, all agents of the NSA, ex-CIA, ex-Mormon temple janitors, etc., turned on a dime against her, even her own attorney. And I want you to know that the attorneys are involved, the judges are involved in this. They swear oaths to each other to protect each other in this organized harassment, mostly of women, but even of little boys. But for some reason, well, there's a religious component, the Adam and Eve. Eve is the root of all evil. They are brainwashed with this, so they believe they can do whatever they want to abuse, torment, and destroy women. And I've had several of my personal friends who were targets of this organized harassment, to the point where one of them actually did take her life in what I believe is a suicide program. And you can see it in Eyes Wide Shut when model Mandy, after a night of having sex with various men, goes home, locks her door, and then takes a whole bottle of sleeping pills and kills herself. That is the suicide program, and that is the program that my girlfriend was involved in, and that's how she committed suicide. And when she was discovered, the police stated that it was a probable accidental overdose, because right before she took the bottle of pills, she posted a new picture of herself on her Facebook page, right? And she was planning on doing some work on her multi-level marketing job. Yeah, I'm a multi-level marketer, Mormondom, okay. Organized crime and the multi-level marketing. Anyway, she posted a picture and then walked over to her bed and took a whole bottle of her medication and died. They found her in bed a day later. Anyway, culpability by those predators within the helping profession even complicates it. And this is what's so difficult, is that these criminal syndicates have infiltrated even the profession that's supposed to be helping them. So these professionals can act as gatekeepers. That is why I've never sought anyone out to assist me. I don't really need therapy now, but it's been a whole lot of self-help books that I've gone through to try and figure out some of the strangeness of my particular family of origin issues. I mean, the total dysfunction. Anyway, so Most often it leads to survivors giving up on finding help outside themselves. That is true, and that you'll find that the police officers are involved in it. You can't obtain any help from the police. They come out and they act like you are crazy. They act like you're a crazy, hysterical woman. That's their favorite stance or position of attitude, their attitude toward any victim that is trying to seek help for some of these organized harassing techniques, in which they actually, while the victim is sleeping, break into the home stealthily, because they have to practice their CIA techniques, and will drug the person and rape them, and then leave. And the person wakes up and really can't remember what happened or if anything happened. It is just so insidious. And it boggles my mind that we live in a society where this is not only possible, but that men are willful participants in this destructive behavior against women. And it's mostly women. Okay, of course, we have those that prefer little boys, so who knows? Anyway, I don't have this. Okay, she continues. I don't have the statistics for how many survivors seek litigation toward their abusers, but I believe the majority are just interested in healing. With all the current focus on rescuing the children now trapped in the world, a substantive number are going to be dissociative when and if they are freed. How are they to get proper help? If the resources do not exist, somehow the good guys need to have financial backing, and that's what she's saying. Somehow the good people need to have some sort of financial backing, like these global criminal syndicates have billions and trillions of dollars at their hands, and to continue to involve policemen in it, to involve all the judges, to involve, hey, go on, just walk outside your door and look and count the houses on your street. You have 1/3 of those people ex-NSA, ex-CIA, ex-military, ex-government employee that are still working on the surveillance fusion NSA military model of just locking down the entire United States, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. I mean, I left a neighborhood in which not one person had an active job, but they were all being paid by InfraGard to spy on the only working person on the block. I'm not saying they were only spying on me. They just caused havoc everywhere. All of them were junk salesmen. Their yards were selling junk. When they came over, I mean, they said they weren't even. Anyway, they're the refugees that are brought up here to engage in active criminal activity run by CIA, NSA, InfraGard, fusion centers, yes, and the police chief in every town is the henchman.